I never thought I'd be the kind of person to plot revenge. I was always the nice guy, the one who gave second chances, the one who believed in the good in people. But sometimes, people mistake your kindness for weakness. And sometimes, they take advantage of you for so long that when you finally see the truth, something inside you just breaks. My name's irrelevant, but you can call me what my ex-partner probably calls me now, a vindictive bastard. I'm okay with that. Let me tell you why. 6 years ago, I started a software development company with my best friend from college, Derek. We'd been friends for almost 15 years at that point. We were roommates, we were groomsmen at each other's weddings, our kids had playdates together. He was the brother I never had. When we started TechBridge Solutions, it felt like a dream come true. Two buddies building something from the ground up, splitting everything 50-50, trusting each other completely. That trust was my biggest mistake. Our company specialized in custom software solutions for medium-sized businesses, nothing revolutionary, but we were good at it. Really good. I handled the technical side, the actual development, client relations, and project management. Derek managed the finances, operations, HR, and business development. It made sense. He had an MBA and had worked in corporate finance before. I trusted him with the money side of things completely. I never even looked at the books closely. Why would I? He was my best friend. The business grew steadily. By year 3, we were pulling in about $2.3 million in annual revenue. By year 5, we'd hit $4.1 million. We each drew a salary of $120,000, which was comfortable but not extravagant. Derek always said we needed to reinvest most of the profits back into the company. I agreed. I was thinking long-term. Build the business, then sell it or scale it massively. I was patient. My wife, Sarah, was less patient. She kept asking why we were living so modestly when the business was doing so well. Derek just bought a Tesla, she'd say. And didn't Jennifer mention they're renovating their entire house? I'd shrug it off. Maybe Derek was better at managing his personal finances. Maybe Jennifer had family money. I didn't think much of it. The first real crack in my trust came about 8 months ago. We were at a client meeting, and the client mentioned how much they appreciated the early payment discount we'd offered them. I smiled and nodded, but inside, I was confused. We'd never discussed offering discounts. After the meeting, I asked Derek about it. "Oh yeah," he said casually. "I've been offering 5% discounts for clients who pay within 10 days. Helps with cash flow." Didn't I mention it? He hadn't. But it seemed reasonable, so I let it go. Then, 3 months later, I was reviewing a contract for a new client, something I rarely did since that was Derek's domain, and I noticed the payment terms were different from what we'd discussed. We'd agreed on a $180,000 project cost, but the contract said $165,000. When I asked Derek about it, he got defensive. "You're misremembering," he said. "We discussed pricing extensively, and we agreed on $165,000. You're too focused on the code and not enough on the business realities. Not every project can command premium pricing." I felt like I was going crazy, but I backed down. Maybe he was right. Maybe I was misremembering. But then came the moment that changed everything. It was a Tuesday evening, about 6 months ago. Sarah and I were having dinner at this Italian place downtown, and we ran into Jennifer, Derek's wife, having dinner with someone I didn't recognize. She looked startled to see us, almost guilty. The man she was with looked uncomfortable too. We made small talk for a few minutes, and then Sarah and I went back to our table. "That was weird," Sarah said. "What do you mean?" She said Derek was working late, but I don't know, something felt off. I called Derek. "Hey man, where are you?" "At the office, drowning in quarterly reports." "Why?" "No reason." "Want me to bring you some food?" "Nah, I'm good. I'll probably head home in an hour." I drove by the office. His car wasn't there. His Tesla with the custom license plate that said TechBoard wasn't anywhere in the parking lot or the nearby streets. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing. Why would he lie about where he was? And who was that man with Jennifer? The next day, I did something I never thought I'd do. I installed tracking software on my laptop, the one Derek sometimes borrowed for presentations, and I started paying attention to things I'd ignored for years. 2 weeks later, Derek borrowed the laptop for a client presentation. Through the tracking software, I could see everything. And what I saw made my blood run cold. He wasn't at a client presentation. He was at a coffee shop, and he was going through financial documents. Our financial documents. But they weren't the versions I'd seen. The revenue numbers were different. Much higher. He was looking at the real books, and then he was creating a separate set of documents, the ones he showed me. My hands were shaking as I took screenshots of everything. Then I started digging deeper. I'd always had administrative access to our business bank accounts, but I'd never really used it. Derek sent me monthly summaries, and I trusted those. Now, I logged in and started going through everything. 6 years of transactions. And that's when I found it. Over the course of our partnership, Derek had stolen $847,000 from me. Not from the company, from me specifically. He'd done it in the most insidious way possible. He'd been systematically underreporting our revenue to me, pocketing the difference, and cooking the books to make it look legitimate. That early payment discount he'd mentioned. Completely fabricated. He was collecting full payments and telling me we'd given discounts. Those lower project fees we'd supposedly agreed to? We'd actually charged full price, he just showed me false contracts. But it was more sophisticated than simple theft. He'd set up a shell company, TechBridge Consulting LLC, with a name just similar enough to ours that clients wouldn't notice. Some of our invoices went to the real company, some went to his shell company. He'd then transfer money from the shell company to his personal accounts. When I looked at our taxes, I realized he'd been filing separate returns for the shell company, returns I'd never seen, and pocketing all that income. The man Jennifer had been with at dinner? I did some digging. He was a divorce attorney. Derek's marriage was falling apart, and Jennifer was getting ready to take him to the cleaners. That's probably why he'd been stealing so aggressively in the past year. He was trying to hide assets before the divorce. I had a decision to make. I could confront him, which would probably lead to a long, ugly legal battle. I could report him to the police, which might result in criminal charges but would definitely destroy the business we'd built. Or I could do something else. Something that would give me back everything he'd stolen and destroy him in the process. I chose the third option. First, I consulted with 3 different lawyers separately, so no one knew my full plan. One specialized in corporate law, one in white-collar crime, and one in contract litigation. I didn't tell any of them the complete picture, just asked hypothetical questions. I learned what I needed to know. Then I hired a forensic accountant. I gave him all the evidence I'd gathered and had him document everything. Every dollar Derek had stolen, every fraudulent transaction, every fake discount and underreported revenue stream. The report was 247 pages long. It was beautiful. Next, I did something that seemed counterintuitive. I started being nicer to Derek. More trusting. More hands-off. I told him I wanted to focus purely on the technical side and that I was grateful he was handling all the business operations. He seemed relieved. He probably thought he'd gotten away with it forever. While I was playing the oblivious partner, I was busy buying out our clients. Not obviously, I'd casually mentioned to clients that I was thinking about starting my own venture and would they be interested in working with me directly. Almost all of them said yes. They worked with TechBridge because of the solutions I built, not because of Derek's financial management. I had them sign non-binding letters of intent, stating that if I ever started a new company, they'd be interested in transferring their business. I also quietly started recruiting our key employees. I told them I was thinking about a change and would they be interested in joining a new venture? I offered them 20% raises and better benefits. Everyone said yes. Derek had always been the business guy who stayed in his office. I was the one who worked alongside our team, who knew their families, who actually gave a damn about them. Then I met with our 3 biggest investors, angels who'd put money into TechBridge during our Series A round 3 years ago. I showed them everything. The forensic accounting report, the evidence of fraud, the fake shell company, all of it. I explained that I wanted out of my partnership with Derek, but I wanted to do it in a way that protected the company's reputation and their investments. They were furious. Not at me, at Derek. One of them had actually been friends with Derek's father. He felt personally betrayed. They agreed to help me with my plan. Here's what we did. Our operating agreement had a clause that said if one partner engaged in fraud or willful misconduct that harmed the company, the other partner could buy them out at a reduced valuation. The valuation would be determined by an independent third party and would exclude any value that was created through fraudulent means. I activated that clause. I presented Derek with the 247-page forensic accounting report, along with a letter from our investors demanding his removal. His face went white as he read it. Then red. Then white again. "This is bullshit," he said. "You can't prove any of this." "I can," I said calmly. "And I will. You have two options. Option 1, I buy you out under the misconduct clause. Based on the adjusted valuation that excludes your fraudulent revenue inflation and accounts for the damage you've done to the company's finances, I'll pay you $250,000 for your 50% stake. Option 2, I report you to the FBI for wire fraud, bank fraud, and tax evasion. You go to prison, lose everything in your divorce, and I still buy out your stake for pennies on the dollar after you're convicted." He tried to argue. He threatened to sue. He claimed I was the one committing fraud. But I had everything documented. Every lie, every theft, every fake transaction. And he knew it. The buyout took 6 weeks to finalize. I paid him $250,000, a fraction of what his stake was actually worth, and he signed over everything. His shares, his titles, his access to company accounts, all of it. The investors helped finance my buyout, so I didn't have to drain my personal savings. But I wasn't done. The day after the buyout was finalized, I announced the formation of a new company, Bridge Tech Solutions. Similar name, but legally distinct. I'd been working on this for months. I'd already filed all the paperwork, secured the domain, built the website, and set up the infrastructure. Then I made my moves. Every single employee transferred to Bridge Tech. Everyone. Derek was left with an empty office and no staff. Every single client transferred their business to Bridge Tech. I'd already laid the groundwork, now I just executed. Within 2 weeks, TechBridge had gone from $4.1 million in annual revenue to essentially zero. The investors agreed to invest in Bridge Tech at a much higher valuation than TechBridge had ever achieved. With Derek gone and the finances clean, the company was actually worth more. I gave small equity stakes to key employees as retention bonuses. Derek was left with a worthless company, no clients, no employees, and a $250,000 payout that his divorce lawyer immediately went after. Jennifer's attorney subpoenaed all his financial records, including the forensic accounting report I'd had prepared. When she saw what he'd been doing, stealing from his best friend, hiding assets, preparing for divorce, she took him for everything. Last I heard, Derek had to sell his house, his Tesla, and most of his possessions to cover the divorce settlement and his legal fees. He tried to start a consulting business, but word had spread in our industry about what he'd done. Nobody would work with him. TechBridge Solutions, his company, now officially dissolved 6 months after I left. It was worth nothing. Meanwhile, Bridge Tech is thriving. We're on track to hit $5.2 million in revenue this year. I own 75% of it, with the rest split between investors and key employees. My personal income has tripled. Sarah and I just bought our dream house. We're happy. People ask me if I feel bad about what I did to Derek. If I feel guilty about destroying him so completely. I don't. He stole from me for 6 years. He looked me in the eye, came to my house for dinner, played with my kids, and smiled while he was robbing me blind. He used our friendship as a shield for his theft. He counted on my trust, my loyalty, my belief in the good in people. I didn't destroy Derek. He destroyed himself. I just made sure he faced the consequences. Was it revenge? Absolutely. Was it legal? Completely. Was it justified? I sleep like a baby every night, so you tell me. The weirdest part is that I occasionally see him around town. He won't make eye contact. He crosses the street if he sees me coming. Good. He should be ashamed. I learned a hard lesson: trust, but verify. Even with your best friend. Especially with your best friend. Because sometimes the people closest to you are the ones who can hurt you the most. Derek taught me that. And I made sure he paid tuition for that lesson, $847,000 worth of tuition, plus his entire career, his marriage, and his reputation. I'd say we're even now. Actually, no. I'm way ahead. And that's exactly how it should be. Edit, wow, this blew up. A lot of people are asking questions, so let me address a few common ones. Why didn't you just call the police immediately? Because criminal cases are unpredictable, and I wanted guaranteed results. If he'd gotten a good lawyer, he might have avoided prison time and kept some of his assets. This way, I got everything back and destroyed his ability to ever do this to someone else. Isn't what you did just as bad? No. Everything I did was completely legal. I used the mechanisms in our operating agreement, enforced our contract, and let clients and employees choose where they wanted to work. He committed fraud. I committed justice. Do you think you'll ever reconcile? Never. You don't reconcile with someone who spent 6 years systematically robbing you. That's not a friendship that had problems. That's a predator-prey relationship that I was too blind to see. What about his kids? I feel terrible for them. They're innocent in all this. But Derek made choices that hurt his own children. He chose to steal, to lie, and to betray everyone around him. The consequences of those choices affected his family, but that's on him, not me. Would you ever trust a business partner again? Yes, but differently. Trust with verification. Regular audits. Shared access to all financial systems. Clear checks and balances. You can still trust people, you just need to build systems that make betrayal harder and detection easier. Some people in the comments are calling me cold or ruthless. Maybe I am now. But I wasn't before Derek. He made me this way. And honestly, I'm okay with who I've become. I'm successful, my family is secure, and I've learned to protect myself and the people I care about. If that makes me the villain in someone's story, so be it. At least I'm the villain who won.